If you've got big dreams and bad jeans, you are in the right place. These shirts are live at barbellapparel.com. Link is in the description. Now let's talk about... So you're new to lifting. Well, let me tell you a story about a kid who was shy, insecure, a little overweight, and didn't have a lot of friends. See, this kid would often look around at other people as they would laugh and socialize effortlessly and think, what did they have that I don't? Why does Jack Rosalind get to go out with Amy Piker? I'm funnier than Jack Rosalind, and my grades are better. But it didn't matter. As great as this kid was, he was a pretty cool kid, he had a very hard time talking to and socializing with other people. He'd been told his whole life what a great special little guy he was by his mom and his aunties who raised him. But he realized as he looked around and saw the confidence with which people engaged with each other that it couldn't be faked. He had to feel it deep in his bone. See, this kid was wise beyond his years, and he knew that anything worth having didn't come easy. And up until that point, his life had been a little bit too easy. So looking back to his favorite mythological characters, the kid realized that he needed a test. He needed something to take him out of his comfort zone, to push him so that he would come out stronger, more capable, assertive, and of course, confident. And then by doing so, he'd be able to engage with his peers and potentially pull the attention of girls like Amy Piker. Now, the kid knew with his motivation that it didn't matter if he didn't know where to start. All of the magazines seemed to give an infinite number of different exercises with endless application. It seemed like there was a tightrope he was supposed to be walking if he wanted to get any results, but that competed with all of the different points of information that were pulling him a million different ways. So that begs a question: how did a kid with no experience, no background, trembling with fear and hesitation, eventually not only find a place where to start, but became a coach, a gym owner, an elite strength athlete, and eventually an online influencer? Yes, if you haven't figured it out, I am indeed that kid. I told you he was pretty cool. And although I'm still a little chubby around the cheeks, I like to think that I've accomplished more than myself or anybody else on the junior varsity football team would have expected. If you're new to lifting, you know that starting from scratch is terrifying, and in staying true to my humble roots, I want to help pay it forward by demystifying things that seem, well, mysterious. So I'm going to do my best today to give you something to sink your teeth into. We are going to peel away 3 big layers, like a big ol' onion. We are going to demystify training for new lifters by talking about strategy, actual sets, reps, exercises, the way you should be approaching them. We're going to cover what even is lifting, because I know many of you, like I was when I started, are not entirely clear on the different schools of thought, the different sports that you see, the different methods of lifting that influence how people train. We are going to start with arguably the most important one. It's the thing I struggled with the most. It's the thing that's going to keep you from taking that next step and from coming back, and that is mindset. That is how you deal with fear and hesitation. That's how you set your expectations. That's how you view yourself as a new lifter, so that you know what to expect and you can start taking in the valuable lessons that are not only going to grow you faster, but they're going to make sure that you get the most amount of character and confidence and discipline and all of the other great things that you stand to gain from a lifetime of strength training. Now, my first introduction into strength training was in the high school varsity football weight room. I started high school young, so my journey started when I was 12 years old, training against these mountains of men. I mean, I looked at the starting linemen like a kid would look at Goofy at Disneyland. So I coped by going into the corner and doing whatever exercises that one machine that was sheltered in the back could afford me, and I made sure not to make eye contact with anybody or talk to anybody. In hindsight, I realized how much of that was in my head. I mean, even when you consider a high school environment where people are dicks, there are so many more people that are eager to help, that are encouraging, even in those environments, that it's almost not even worth talking about everybody else. And I found that to be more and more true as I got into corporate gyms and started my own gym. I'm very sensitive, with all the years I've spent coaching other people and helping regular clients, with how daunting it can be, because you go into a corporate gym and people are jacked, they're hoisting hundreds of pounds, they're working out intensely. It's super intimidating, and it doesn't help that they all look like they're competing for a spot on the cover of a magazine. It feels like all eyes are on you. So my main point for you is to never go in feeling like you're a guest in somebody else's gym. All of these places exist with you in mind. It doesn't help sports teams to just cater to their strongest athletes, and it doesn't help corporate gyms to just cater to the people that are already in shape. They want you to feel safe. They want the equipment to be usable. They want to solve as many problems for you as possible, and that's how they exist. Now, You don't necessarily want to lean on the staff because they will usually try to sell you a training package that you don't necessarily need. However, everybody else there, the people that look the most intimidating are the ones that are most likely to have started where you are at right now, and they want to help you traverse that canyon, because if there's one thing that's ever true, it's that people love talking about things that they feel like an expert in. My stepdad laid asphalt for Caltrans for 20 years, and if I made the mistake of getting home before my mom did and asking him how his day was, I would get a 2.5-hour lecture about how the foundations are laid and how they take core samples and how they mix and grade asphalt. I know more about it than I ever wanted to. But the thing is, meatheads who spend all of their time doing this stuff, the second somebody wants their opinion, you better hope you have time to absorb everything they have to tell you. And people are just so helpful. I can't stress enough. For every one person that's kind of a dick, there's like 15 other people that are just glowing and eager to help. Beyond that, that's going to make sure that you grow and learn faster than if you go research everything, because you get it straight from the source while you're there. It's also going to socialize you more. You're going to learn how to talk to other people, how to engage, how to coexist with other people in the room. It's something that we desperately need in today's day and age where we are so removed from the rest of the world. But it's also going to reinforce the gym as a place you want to be, because you know people on a first name basis. You make friends. You ask people how their day is. You talk about their dog or whatever they have coming up, their kids' recital or the bodybuilding competition they're getting ready for. The main reason that CrossFit took off as a phenomenon that went viral some 15 plus years ago was because it had a social element to it that most training facilities don't have. So you want to capitalize on that. The more you can turn it into a social endeavor, the more likely you are to stick with it. So don't act like a guest. Don't hesitate. Don't feel like people are looking at you, because I promise you they're too busy looking at themselves in the mirror to notice you. But if you do approach them and ask politely for help, they will give it to you. Now, before we move on to the mechanics, I just want to talk about expectations for a minute, because this is very important for new lifters. Everybody is wildly different, and this is why they tell you not to compare yourself to other people. Now, there's kind of a contradiction there, because comparing yourself to other people can be useful to motivate you to chase something that you want. Now, whether or not you get it is up in the air, so you can't have your entire self-esteem wrapped up in getting this thing that you want. Remember that it is the journey, it's not the destination. Everybody can improve. Everybody's better going to the gym than sitting on the couch. But if you get a concrete idea of what your journey should look like, you're going to set yourself up for failure. Most people who are looking to get in shape are sedentary, they're inactive. So the cool thing to know is that where the human body kind of wants to be in a life where you're active and using it the way it's kind of designed, this is where we are, this is where our body wants to be. So usually you see a really quick spike, strength going up, performance and endurance going up, and you can measure that week to week, which is really exciting. You'll also see little changes in muscularity, your shoulders, your back, your arms getting a little bit bigger pretty quickly. And if you pair that with fat loss, which is really easy to do if you're dieting, you can see pretty substantial change. And by that, I mean change that somebody will look at you and be like, you look great. Have you been working out? You can see that quick in a matter of weeks or months, and that is the best feeling in the world. Remember that happiness is not going from 9% to 7% body fat, or going from 20-inch arms to 22-inch arms. Happiness is being a little more fit than you were, realizing that you can make changes and that you are an active agent in your own life. That's the best thing you can take away. And if you can orient yourself towards that, you're going to keep coming back year after year after year. And over time, the changes are going to be astonishing. Also, I talk a lot about things like character and self-esteem and happiness, and this can help with that. That's why I push everybody towards it. However, it's also important to know that it helps, it improves, it doesn't cure. And people, if they're not careful, can get in this space where they think that the physical improvements or the increase in strength or aesthetics are actually what is going to help them out. And when you orient yourself that way too much, then you end up in this toxic space where you focused on the metric to improve your happiness and self-esteem. But as we know with all things, it's called Goodhart's Law. If you focus on the metric for something else as the main goal, it stops being a good metric, and people become absorbed with the superficial stuff, with the aesthetics. They're trying to get a little leaner, push a little farther. And there's this sense that there's this place over there that if we get to, then we'll be happy. That's not quite how it works. However, that's not a bad thing. Understanding that the chase is the exciting part, the chipping away at a project, that when you do get there, you're kind of unsatisfied, you're kind of left wanting more. That's not a bad thing. Understand that this stuff helps, and the journey and engaging with it is what reinforces all of these things we want to improve, but you also can't look at it like a substitute for those things. So remember that if your life needs work, that this is only a supplement to it. It's still important to focus on other things, including mental health, that might need their own attention somewhere else. Thank you to Bear Mattress for sponsoring this video. This month, Bear is letting me offer my audience 40% off of their mattress purchase. That is greater than any discount they have ever given. Guys, you all know how important sleep is. When you don't get enough, not only does your body not grow, but you just don't have what it takes to get through a workout. I'm a stomach sleeper. That is where I breathe the easiest. That helps with my sleep apnea. But the trade-off is that on my stomach, my lower back droops, and I wake up with back pain consistently. So Bear ended up pairing me with their Firm Hybrid Elite mattress, and me and my wife have been sleeping on it for the last 6 months. I can tell you it is some of the best sleep that I have ever gotten. It has not broken in. It's not soft in the middle. It's firm exactly how I like it. It gives the support and pushback to my joints, and I wake up feeling very refreshed. Bear also has a sleep quiz that finds out what the exact mattress build is for you, so you do not have to guess. You don't have to wait till it's at your front door, out of the package, waiting for you to sleep on to find out, is this the best type of mattress for me? And the best part of all of this is that Bear delivers these mattresses to your front door, and setting them up is extremely easy. I was able to pop the box up on my shoulder and get it upstairs in one go. I put the whole thing together inside of 10 minutes. Guys, I absolutely hate sweating at night. If I'm too warm, I just cannot fall asleep. I already have my wife who's like a furnace, and then she's got 3 comforters on, and it's just like being in front of a radiator. So anything that wicks away heat is just a bonus in my book. And these mattresses are made with 3 premium foams that are designed to push away unwanted body heat, so I don't cook in my own juices throughout the night. Now, as if all of that weren't enough, wait, there's more. Bear offers a 120-night sleep trial. If you pick the wrong type, if it isn't a fit, if there's something about it, like you just don't like a good night's sleep and you're like, I'm going to sleep on the floor from now on, you can send it back. So I love my Bear mattress. I think you will too. Click the link in the description to get 40% off. Thanks again to Bear for sponsoring this video. Now back to the show. So let's get into what even is lifting. This is really important. When I started, I had no idea what the different exercises or movements were, or what bodybuilding was versus powerlifting. It can seem so crazy to see people lift different ways, and you're like, well, that's not quite right. That's not how you use that piece of equipment. And in reality, it might just be that there's a specific purpose that they're using it for that you're not really aware of. So we're going to start off with the pieces of equipment that you use, describe them a little bit. Then we're going to go into the professional sports that exist, because those do a good job of encompassing the different ways you might train. And then once we have that, we can go into how you would set goals, how you might prepare at the very beginning to move on over a training career. So to start out, we have the barbell. The barbell is like the almighty icon of strength culture because it's so versatile. That's really why it gets used so much. It's economical, it's easy to store, it's scalable. You can be brand new, or you can be an advanced, world-class lifter, and the barbell is going to suit your needs. The movements you do are skill-based, which is kind of cool. It translates very good to explosive movements and strength movement, which is why it's the backbone of just about every athletic team. Whether you're a runner or a track athlete or a football player or a soccer player, you've done barbell movements because they are so good, and they give a lot of bang for the buck, which is why people like them. If you want a minimal program, you can do that very well by prioritizing a barbell and focusing on the movements over your entire body. And then we move on to things like dumbbells. Dumbbells and barbells are both free weights, meaning they're not tethered to anything, so there's a little bit of coordination involved. The thing is, barbells allow for a lot of force to be produced because you're using all of your big joints together and it's really stable. Dumbbells are very unstable because each arm does its own thing, each limb does its own thing, but that's kind of the power of it. You can train stability, you can focus on one limb at a time, you can do smaller movements to hit smaller muscles in a more precise way. But the trade-off, because you're not going to be able to handle as much weight, not as good for strength overall, although both things are always going to give you a blend of both. You never get just strength or just muscle. It's always a blend, so you can get stronger using dumbbells, especially in the beginning. But as you advance, strength athletes use dumbbells to fill in the gaps, kind of. The barbell is the big movement. That's the hammer. The dumbbells are like the scalpel. And as you go down to machines, you have more stability, but more options. You can do smaller movements, train smaller muscle groups in very, very specific and unique ways. And that, again, kind of fills in the gaps. The beauty of machines is that they're idiot-proof, which is why they were made. Not only do elite athletes use them to fill in those gaps, but people that are new don't need instruction. They can sit down and
go into town
based on just the little diagram that's up on it. And if you're brand new, you can move through a circuit of machines and be all the better for it without having to second guess. So it's fantastic. So we kind of start big with the barbell, great for strength, requires skill, longer learning curve. Dumbbells, you can do some finer things, takes a little stability, still really good for muscle and a bit of strength. Then you go to accessory stuff, which is really for building muscle, and again, very easy to implement. Now, if we look at the big professional arenas, we're going to have a spectrum of aesthetics versus performance. So aesthetics is bodybuilding. Bodybuilders are just concerned with looking good, and that means building muscle, having every little muscle built specifically, which requires a lot of different exercises, and being very, very lean. The leanness is a byproduct of dieting. Anybody can actually train like a powerlifter and diet really well and still look kind of jacked, but bodybuilders are on another level because they sculpt their body so carefully with so many small movements. So bodybuilding training, hypertrophy or muscle focus, so the ranges they work in don't care so much about strength, again, although they still get very strong, and they do a lot of little exercises. So that's generally bodybuilding training. On the other end, you have things like Olympic weightlifting, which you see in the Olympics every 4 years. You do the clean and jerk and the snatch with the barbell. They're explosive movements. They add a lot of pop. So if you've ever seen an athletic training program, they're probably doing those movements. They're kind of like jumping with weight. Very good for athletic development. You'll get a little stronger, a little bit of muscle, but it's not specific to those. So generally you don't include those when you're trying to add muscle or get stronger. It's really good for athletic development, and there's a huge learning curve. So if you're training for Olympic lifting, you need a coach. You need to apply a lot of specificity, meaning you're practicing those movements because they're very fine. When you move into powerlifting, that's a squat, bench, and deadlift. Everybody and their mom does those three movements, whether they're a powerlifter or not, because they are so dang good at doing what you need. The fact that you move slowly means you're under tension. So the strength you get, that's absolute strength, maximal strength. Think of it like a winch, where the clean and jerk is like a shotgun going off. That strength translates to a lot of different things athletically, but it also helps make you bigger. So those muscles used in each movement still grow very well. So even bodybuilders will use barbell movements in the beginning of their workout very often. And so does just about everybody else. It's also a very good test of strength. So powerlifters tend to do very low reps, a lot of weight to condition their nervous system, to use as much of their muscles as possible. And then you go into kind of the fringe sports. These are the redheaded stepchildren. You have like strongman, which is getting more popular, which is a blend of like powerlifting, a little Olympic weightlifting, some like Highland game stuff thrown in, and some of it they just invented. A lot of fun. You get really strong and conditioned doing that type of training. It has kind of a powerlifting background. Then you go into like CrossFit. It's like the cousin that nobody talks to. It's easy to make fun of. CrossFit's really cool, actually. If you're interested in it, I do recommend checking out a box because there's a huge community component. But it's basically barbell stuff done for very high reps, along with gymnastic stuff and running and calisthenics. So it's great conditioning, great for fat loss, great for endurance, and you will get a bit stronger and introduce yourself to the barbell, but it is not size or strength specific. So that's kind of a lay of the land. Now, it's important to know that there is no magic spot to start in. Everybody feels like, if I want to do this one thing, I'm brand new, but I want to be a powerlifter. I know that you need to start just doing those movements. And that's actually one of the worst ways to do it. The analogy I use here is youth athletics. This is known. If you want kids, brand new potential athletes, to be good at something, you do not go the Tiger Woods route and just have a golf club in your hands when you're 4 years old and just swing thousands of times a day. That gets you bored, burnt out, overuse issues, and it fails to develop the things you need. So actually you need variety when you're brand new. It's really good to have variety and to kind of play because there's more right answers. Remember I said homeostasis, where your body wants to be, is up here, but a sedentary lifestyle has you down here. So just by playing, just by experimenting, just by showing up, you make progress pretty quickly, but you also learn how your body works. You learn how to strain, you learn how the gym is put together, how workouts are put together. So you get this learning curve and you round out your body by doing a bunch of different things. So you have less weaknesses down the road. So that's a really good way to do it. And you can do that just by going to the gym and experimenting with with different exercises, ideally in accordance with a template, but you can just kind of experiment. It's not so important that you start out specific, and I actually recommend that people don't start out specific. Understand that when setting goals, you have not months, you literally have years to build a base, a foundation, before you really need to decide if you need to commit one way or another. And in that time, you can develop a lot of different skills and see your body change very well. You can do powerlifting only training and still get some muscle and get stronger and feel your physique improve. You can also do bodybuilding training and learn a bunch of different things and still get generally stronger to where you can transition and train more specifically down the road. You have so much play in the joints. Lastly, guys, we're going to talk about strategy. This is what you're all here for. This is what do I do right now? So first we have to figure out a couple of things. One, what makes a workout? What's a minimum viable product for a workout? There's 3 things you need. You need good exercises, which we already covered. That's going to be just about anything you found in the gym. Most of what you can do with a barbell, a dumbbell, machines, or cables. This is hard to mess up, especially if you're using references or asking people for help. Generally, a full range of motion. You can't go wrong. Under control, slow tempo. That's all you really need to know at this point. Beyond that, you need consistent effort. That means going and pushing yourself a little bit. Again, keeping a form cap, not getting sloppy or ugly, but keeping control to the point where you get close to failing on a movement. As long as you are maintaining effort, you are going to be sparking a change in your body. Beyond that, the most important thing, consistent progression. That means showing up on a schedule and trying to do a little more each time. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. For right now, it's really just by applying a little more effort, trying to do another rep, adding a couple of pounds here and there where you can. And that's where keeping a notebook really comes in handy. What people really tend to get lost with, and what YouTube doesn't help with at all, are things like perfection, trying to find the perfect exercise, the perfect technique, the perfect split. Those things don't exist. As you become more developed over time, you've gotten your base, and then 5-10 years down the road, you know you're fighting for that national title. Your training has to be very specific, but there's a journey of less specific to more specific, so do not worry about that right now. The worst thing you can do is put off going to the gym or put off progressing on your program because you're constantly being fed things that insist this one thing is the perfect way. That could not be farther from the truth. I would much rather have you pick a quote unquote imperfect approach, which is even a wrong way of thinking about it because it implies there's a perfect approach. But I'd much rather have you do that, commit to it, go across the learning curve where you figure out how to milk it for all it's worth and learn how to put out effort and be consistent, than spend months trying to find the perfect thing as if you're going to find something and then you're just going to explode. That's not how it works. So find something reasonable, pay your dues, apply yourself to it. Technique just has to be passable. There's plenty of tutorials online. You have to be comfortable, controlled, balanced, and efficient. Machines, dumbbell stuff, super easy to find tutorials on YouTube, and I recommend you do that. Barbell stuff, everybody's technique's a little bit different because you're built different, so don't get hung up on a very specific technique. Do not try to find the perfect split. I'm serious, it doesn't exist. Find something you can sustain that fits your lifestyle. The progress, the consistent progress is the important thing, not actually what you're doing today. So to give yourself direction, this is as specific as I'm going to get. There's 2 things you can do. One is to go the varied route. This is plan A. This is somebody who wants to experiment, who likes spending time at the gym, who wants to try everything. When I was 13, 14, 15, when I was going through all that teenage angst, I loved that. I wanted to spend all day in the gym, and I tried everything. That's essentially bodybuilding light. It's a great way to round yourself out, to learn how to put out effort, to learn how to go through all of these different movement patterns, and to get a big toolkit that you can apply to something more specific years down the road when you want to refine your goals. To do that, you just want to look at resources that educate you a little bit on each of those different things. I recommend strongly getting a subscription to bodybuilding magazines, as corny as it seems. Even if you don't want to bodybuild, they have a lot of good information. Or you can check out something like Arnold's Bodybuilding Encyclopedia. It's not cutting edge, but it's tried and true, and it exposes you to a lot of different exercises. There's a lot of pictures, a lot of writing, and a lot of very common splits as to how people arrange workouts. It's very simple, it's very bare bones. You can also look at an app. Boostcamp is a main sponsor of this channel. Boostcamp has a bunch of different programs that are pre-written that have simple hypertrophy or bodybuilding templates that give you a clean structure and give you examples of how to move forward. Bald Omni-Man's a good example. Alberto Nunez is a good example. Jeffrey Verity Schofield is a good example. And I recommend all of their channels as well. The beauty is if you take a split, if you follow it, and you just learn the movements carefully over time, and if you progress evenly over time, you're going to grow and you're going to lean out and you're going to get stronger and you're going to look better. Now, the second route is for somebody who doesn't have time for all that mess. I don't want to spend an hour and a half in the gym. I want 45 minutes tops. I want a few exercises I can really sink my teeth into, and I want to be able to just go hard and get better at something minimal. This is the barbell only route, or the barbell primarily route. And this is one of the most common ways that newbies get involved into strength culture or into weightlifting in general. That is that they start with a linear progression. That really just means you have this static workout. So it's this lift for so many sets and reps. It's usually like 3 sets of 5, but it will be in there, whatever you find. And all you do is keep everything the same and just add a couple pounds every time. And you do that indefinitely. And it gives you a lot of time to get skill with these movements that are kind of complex. You get confidence, you learn how to push, and it also teaches you to adhere to a progression, which is really important because when you're new, you just want to go in and go as hard as you can. You're not paying attention to weights and it's chaos and you end up jumping around. So having a program you can stick to and learning the skill of the movements while learning to adhere to a progression, so important. Starting strength is one of the most popular ones. I actually recommend, you'll hear people criticize Mark Ripito, and there's some things that probably merit criticism. But as a way for newbies to get their toe in the water, it's hard to do better than Starting Strength. Practical Programming is also a very good book that's easy to read. Don't go out and start reading textbooks or high-minded stuff. And if you're interested in barbell training, do not start out with percentage-based programs that are appropriate for more advanced powerlifters, because those will not apply to you. It will feel like it's your first day driving and you're behind the wheel of a monster truck. It's not outfitted for you. One of my favorite linear progressions is called the Grayscale LP, which is a twist on Starting Strength. You can find that book as well. I actually like that as a little more of an aggressive approach that I think is really appropriate for a lot of people. I still run variations of it to this day, and I can write it on a cocktail napkin and give it to you. It's very easy to run. I'm gonna have links for all this stuff in the description. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I'm sure you're gonna have a million questions. Or if you wanna get in touch with me directly, you can take it to my Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope that you have a really good, productive journey into strength training. We need as many people in the game as possible, because a world where more people lift weights is a world where people are stronger, more useful, they live longer, and then we can all talk about what each other benches, which is my dream come true. Thanks again, guys. Until next time, this is Bromley and Cash. I'll see you.